Hi there, welcome back. It's 8:40 right now. So it is the time of the year where, of course, we're getting together with our families, and maybe it'll be great, and maybe it'll also be a time for uncomfortable conversations about several topics, including race. These conversations often end, and think about it, in anger, in arguments, but they don't have to. So joining me this morning to talk about this, the author of the new book, Dear White Women, Let's Get Uncomfortable Talking About Racism, and our hosts as well of the Dear White Women podcast, Sarah Blanchard and Masasha Suzuki Graham. Thank you, you two. Good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited for this conversation.
Oh, it's exciting to talk about it. Okay, so first off, I just want to clear the air. There might be people, let's be honest, who are watching right now who hear the title of the book and the title of the podcast and they're going, why are you targeting white women? Talk a little bit about that title, why Dear White Women?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think that's the number one question that we get asked about this title, even by my own mother, who is white. But, we're both biracial daughters of one Japanese immigrant parent and one white parent each. And I think we, by virtue of being biracial, we've been in a lot of spheres that are predominantly white. And know what conversations are happening and what conversations are not happening. So we also recognize, the amount of power that women have in society that's often undervalued. So we thought, what if we could change the narrative and change those conversations in the spaces we know so well and really tap into the power that women, and in particular white women, hold in this country to really make change that will affect all of us for the better.
I love that, harnessing the power. And as a white woman, I can say I am fine with the title personally, and I'm honored to be speaking with you both about this. It's super important. When we talk a little bit about these conversations, they do get uncomfortable. Why should we get maybe perhaps comfortable with that uncomfort when we talk about race?
Yeah, and in particular in the context of some of these conversations that are coming up around the holiday table, I think unfortunately, if COVID has taught us anything, it's that we don't live forever, right? And we want to make the most of the time that we do have together because we've missed out on many opportunities over the last few years. And a recent study, granted it was from 2019 pre-pandemic, but it showed that nearly 3 in 4 Americans who celebrated a winter holiday with family pre-COVID really wish conversations with their family were more meaningful. But nearly 2 out of 3 would not describe their family gatherings as meaningful. And so how can we bring more meaning to the table? I think it's sometimes not avoiding these topics that we all have strong feelings and thoughts about, but that we might really want to dive into, because really at the end of the day, these affect us all as human beings. And we really want to connect on that level when we're with the people who are most, dear to us.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of these tips. We're at the Thanksgiving table. Maybe someone says something that you would consider racist or something that could be considered a microaggression. How do we proceed? This is like awkward city right here.
It completely is. And I think we've all had those moments where, someone says something and you're just frozen because you're not sure, what to say. And hours later you think, oh, that was what I should have said. And I just couldn't do it in the moment. But, while there's no real checklist as to, what's going to be the perfect thing to say, for us, really, one great thing to do is to interrupt the flow of that conversation by asking a simple question, which is, what do you mean by that? And in that moment, when you hear that comment, and you ask that question, you give the speaker a moment to take a pause, to take a breath and really reflect. And maybe they did mean exactly what they said. And, then you have to make some choices about how you're going to engage in that point forward. But maybe that moment of reflection gives them enough time to say, you know what? That isn't really what I meant. And that's another opportunity to enter into a dialogue that you may not have been able to have otherwise.
Now, I want to ask you about that moment, because let's say someone is like, that's exactly what I meant. And where do you go from there? Especially when you're talking about people, you are close enough with them that you are sitting at a Thanksgiving table with them. How do you have these conversations, hopefully to change some minds, without completely, blowing up relationships, family members and things like that?
I think the first thing is to take a deep breath, right? And then do the breathing out, because the reality is when we have those moments, it's triggering us in our bodies. And so we can't disconnect our brain from our bodies in those moments. So do like a moment of deep breathing. Mm-hmm. And then I think one of the things that is really helpful is to keep it personal, right? I would say something that starts with an I statement, because if you're talking about my feelings or something about that comment doesn't sit right with me, right? Nobody can argue with how I'm feeling, versus if you go after the person and saying like, you said something XYZ, you said something and this makes you a certain type of person, that's not going to go well. That's going to cause defensiveness. And the point of these interactions with the people we love is to just welcome more people into thinking critically, reflecting on their own beliefs, and then really connecting on that human level. So I would say, start by saying, I don't feel comfortable with that statement. I think that's one of the biggest things. And then the other thing is, going back to connecting on a human level, something that you can really find common, in common with that person. For example, when we're talking about COVID, right? There's people on all sides of the spectrum of masking and vaccines. But one thing we can probably all agree on is that it was really disruptive, and that it's something that we wished that it was really difficult and that we wish would all go away. And so leaning into those similarities, those commonalities to start, I think is really important.
Sarah Blanchard and Masasha Suzuki Graham, thank you so much for being with us. I feel like this is only the tip of the iceberg. We would love to have you back and have more of these conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And for more information on the book and the podcast, you can check out their website, dearwhitewomen.com. Thanks again.